So we are live. I appreciate you guys coming to talk to me. And the very first person I wanted to speak with was Cloudren. How's it going? Live.
It's going good.
I appreciate you guys coming to talk to me.
Problem?
Yep, sorry. Problem solved. Anyway, so Cloudren, we haven't talked on here before, right?
No, yeah. A little bit in direct messages, but not on the
not on the
before.
podcast. Okay, so tell me, what religion were you originally? You still religious?
I am not. I am ex-Mormon.
Okay, ex-Mormon. Interesting. How long you been on the outside?
About 2 years.
That's good. So, do you feel like your parents kind of shoved it down your throat, or was it pretty relaxed?
Yeah, no. I grew up my whole life that way. I was born and raised in Provo, Utah. So,
of course,
everyone around me my whole life was Mormon.
For sure, yeah. I actually just did a video. You may have seen the video, but I basically just talked about how, like 2/3 of Utah is Mormon or something like that. Like that's a really high number.
Yeah, I did see your video. Accurate.
Right? Yeah, so that must have sucked. So when you, like, are you out? Like, are you public about the fact that you don't believe it, or?
I'm out to my mom. My dad does not know.
Okay. How does your mom feel? Were there any kind of consequences for you leaving, or?
Not from my mom. She actually left first.
Oh, interesting.
And I felt really betrayed when she left, actually.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. How long ago did she leave? Like, how long before you?
Oh, I want to say 3 years before I left.
Wow, man. Okay. So you and your mom, I assume, are getting along pretty well now that you're both on the outside.
Yeah, I live with her.
Okay. So things aren't too bad then.
Her wife, actually.
Oh, nice. All right. Very good. So things are going pretty well then. You're pretty happy with where you're at right now?
Yeah, for the most part. I'd like to tell my dad at some point, but
yeah, how do you think he would
take
it?
well.
Like what do you think he would do?
I don't know. I'm scared to tell him. He's very deeply involved.
Yeah. So
And
yeah, go ahead.
No, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, is he high up in the church or something? Like, how long has he been in it?
He used to be a first counselor to our bishop.
Okay.
So
what is that? What's the first counselor?
Okay, so a bishop is like the person who's over a section of the church.
Yeah.
And then the first and second counselors are like first and second in command after him.
Okay, interesting.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So that's like on the church level, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then just to clarify, what is a ward?
It's like a congregation.
Okay.
I think.
Okay. From what I understand,
Sorry, terms.
Right. I understand there are wards and stakes, and as you go further up, you get various different names for things. I don't really know which ones are which or how they're structured or anything.
So I was in the Quince Orchard ward, so that's just like the small congregation, and then a stake is a group of congregations.
Okay, I see.
That do activities and stuff together.
I guess like a district or a circuit or something with...
Yeah, like that.
Okay, I see. So with Jehovah's Witnesses, you have like a single congregation, and then you have a circuit, which is like, I don't know, 5 congregations in one little area. And then above that is a district, and that includes probably 20 congregations, maybe the tri-state area. And then, so that's how it's structured. And so I assume that wards are just single congregations, and then stakes are kind of like circuits.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Well, I'm glad you got yourself on the outside. I'm glad that things seem to be going okay, and hopefully you can Hopefully you can manage to tell your dad one day. But it seems like it's nothing super urgent at the moment, right?
No, not yet.
So, okay. Well, I appreciate you coming on and talking to me. I'm glad to hear that.
Oh yeah, anytime.
Okay, let's see. I was gonna speak with the podcast stuff. Okay, I was gonna talk to Timey the Cutie. If I can find the T section here. Here we go. Timey the Cutie. Are you there? Can you hear me?
I'm here. Yeah.
So I've seen you around the server a lot, and you've drawn some artwork
Yeah.
for me and things, right?
Yeah, and I've also talked to you in DMs before.
Right. I don't remember
Yeah.
talking to you in the podcast, though. Have I?
I don't think you ever have. I know we've talked when the podcast wasn't around yet.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I created the podcast because I was like, well, I'm talking to people anyways. I might as well put it on YouTube for other people to benefit, right? So,
It's a
anyway,
good idea.
so tell me, like, what religion were you originally? You still religious?
I'm not religious anymore. I was a Roman Catholic though.
A Roman Catholic. Okay. That's a little bit
Yeah.
different from like traditional Catholicism, isn't it, in some way? Or
Pretty different. It's a lot more strict.
okay, like what kind of strictness did you have to deal with?
Like they really, really follow the Bible. Like it's really hard to explain, but I do know that they do believe that being gay is wrong and like divorce is really frowned upon. Having sex outside of marriage is also really frowned upon there too.
Man, that
Pretty much,
sucks.
and it's really, really believed that you have to read the Bible all the way through and a whole bunch of other stuff.
That's
They
fascinating.
think they're preaching love. Yeah.
Right. That's interesting to me, mainly because back in the I don't know, the Middle Ages, I guess, between I think the 1200s and the 1600s roughly. Reading the Bible was outlawed. If you owned a Bible by the Catholic Church, if you owned a Bible, then you could be killed for it because they felt like
wow.
they didn't want people misinterpreting what it said. So the Catholic Church was the only one allowed to read the Bible and interpret its doctrine, and they just pass it down to the citizens in the towns, you know. So
Wow.
yeah, it's kind of interesting to me that they're pretty
is really
serious about that. Yeah. So that sounds
Yeah.
pretty strict. I wish that I had had the opportunity to go to like a Catholic mass. I don't know of any Catholic buildings in my area, or churches or whatever. But anyway, so like how long you been on the outside?
Quite a while now. I'm 17 and I left the church around after I got out of grade 9 and no, after I got out of grade 8 because my old school used to be specifically Roman Catholic school
Yeah.
and we had to go to church like every month. Well, every 2 weeks we had to go to church.
Okay.
And once I got into grade 9 and going to high school, I kind of really thought about it and like I learned like a whole bunch of science and watched a whole bunch of different channels and stuff and started really thinking about it. So I really fell out of my beliefs and stuff.
Okay. And that you said that was about 9th grade roughly, right?
Around 8th or 9th,
8th or
around
9th.
there.
Okay. So I feel it's pretty safe to assume you're around 13 years old, somewhere in there, right?
I was around probably 13, 14-ish.
Okay. So, and you're 17 now, you said?
Yep.
That's pretty good. So 4 years you've got yourself on the outside. That's not too bad. So
Yeah.
do your parents know that you don't believe anymore?
I don't know because I've told them, but they keep trying to bring me back into the religion. I told my grandparents, but they're always trying to get me to go to church and stuff and like really try to bring me back into the whole thing that they were trying to go about.
Right.
And I kept saying no every time they tried to get me to go back to church because I kind of realized I don't want to go back.
Right. Yeah, I can totally understand that. But they're not really like cramming it down your throat then, I guess. Is that fair to say? They're not like saying if you don't do it then you're you're kicked out of the house or something like that?
Yeah, they haven't said that, but I know
Okay.
that they treat me and a few other cousins who also left the faith a lot differently than they
Sure.
treat others who are in the religion still.
Sure. Yeah, I know what you mean. My parents, I lived on my own at a certain point, but like my parents still treated me completely differently. So it's not like they did kick me out of my house, but it wasn't like I was facing that, when I was 20 years old. I was just facing the social ostracization part of it, and it sucked. So I totally understand where you're coming from with that.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It was really, really fun.
Sure. Yeah, that's pretty disappointing. Roman Catholic. I know that there's a difference between Roman Catholic, and there's also Eastern Orthodox, which Catholicism branched off of, as far as I can understand. Eastern Orthodox was the original, I think. I would like to cover all of this stuff at some point. It sounds really interesting. I just haven't gotten to it yet, so we shall see. Next person I wanted to talk to was somebody with a very hard name to pronounce. Tionstav. Hey, can you hear me? No? Can't hear me? You're unmuted, FYI. Tionstav. Nope. Okay. Back to mute for now. Okay, let's see. Next person. I'll come back to you, Tionstav, or however the hell you say the name. Next person on the list was... I'm so bad with letters. I'm so bad with the alphabet. I'm looking for the H's. There it is. Hydra. You there?
Yep.
How's it
Hello.
going?
Good.
We have talked before, haven't we?
I actually don't think I've been on the podcast before.
Oh, really? No? Okay. I thought that I'd had you on at some point. Well, all right. Well, welcome to the podcast then.
Thanks.
So, what religion were you originally? You still religious?
I have always been an atheist.
Really? Always? So, like, since you were young?
Well, when I was little, I'm pretty sure I believed in God, but all my other classmates would always talk about it. So when you're little, you just tend to start to believe those sort of things.
Sure.
I actually wasn't raised Christian or Mormon, or my parents never tried to force any religion on me.
Okay, that's good. Were they religious in any way themselves, or not really?
I'm pretty sure my mom was raised Catholic.
Interesting. She was raised Catholic, but it's not really her cup of tea anymore, I guess.
Yep.
Okay. Well, that's good. So, what got you interested in my channel and my content? Like, what was the draw?
Well, I started out by just seeing some of those videos with people debunking Earth theories, and eventually, when you get onto that side of YouTube, you end up finding channels like yours, and I saw your videos and I thought, hey, that's pretty cool. I like this guy.
Sure. That's awesome. Well, I'm glad you made your way here. That's pretty cool. Do you have any interesting stories to tell or anything about, like, religion, anything like that?
Well...
You don't have to. I don't want to put you on the spot or anything.
Not that I can think of at the moment.
Okay, that's fine. Well, I appreciate you coming on. That's pretty cool. And thanks for watching my content and stuff.
You're welcome.
Okay. Yeah, every now and then I get somebody who is like, who's just atheist from the beginning, and they like my content. In fact, I've been told by some people that they just like watching my content for the art. Like, they're not even listening to the things that I'm saying. They just like the art, and that's fine with me. Enjoy the art. Sorry, I'm messing with something if you guys can hear that. Okay, so I hear that this Tionstav person, how do you say your name? You're unmuted. Oh, hang on.
Name is just a jumble of letters I assembled until it sort of starts to sound like a name.
Right.
Or, as text-to-speech, pronounce it Shinstav, which sounds like an isolated Russian village in the middle of nowhere. Anyways.
Interesting.
Hello.
Hey.
My name is Calvin.
Okay, all right, cool. Calvin. So, we haven't talked before on the podcast, right?
No, we have not.
Are you religious? Were you originally?
I was in the Mormon church,
Okay.
and in 3 to 2 years, I'm going to be going on a mission.
Oh, really? Are you still like? Do you still
I don't
believe
want
it?
to go on a mission, but I
Okay.
find this very tough.
I guess your parents are kind of pushing you into it.
Well, not my mom. My mom is excellent. My father is a Mormon moron.
Wow, man. So do you? I mean, it's in a few years, so I guess you don't know anything about where they'd want to send you or anything yet, right? You there? Did I lose you? Did I disconnect?
Yeah, you did.
Oh, okay. You're still here though.
Of
Right.
course.
Okay, sweet. So you don't know anything about where you're gonna go, I guess. Like you don't. It's still too
Well,
early to tell. Or
I'm most likely going to resign at the time, but that's the hardest part.
right.
So I won't have to go on a mission more likely, which
Right.
is what I'm aiming for.
So how do you feel about missions and stuff? Like, do you have any opinions on like whether it's good or bad or you know? I mean, I guess you may end up learning a new language. Some people do that when they go on missions. How do you feel about the mission?
Can you hear, or is my internet connection really, really bad?
No, I can hear you just fine. Infinity, are you
Okay.
here? Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly fine.
Okay, I think it's just your internet.
Oh. It usually works really good on podcasts.
Oh, it's fine. No big deal. We'll just work our way through it. You can hear me okay, though, right? At
Yes,
the
I can
moment?
hear you fine.
Okay. So, how do you feel about missions? How do you feel about the whole concept? Do you think it...
I think it's like being deported for 2 years straight. I do not like the idea of being sent to another country or away from your home and not being able to call your parents, but only
Sure.
2 times per year,
Sure.
which would be once on Mother's Day for Mom and once on Christmas, or maybe their birthday. I forgot.
Yeah, that is pretty messed up. And actually, from what I understand, this may be incorrect, but I'm pretty sure that one of them is on Christmas and the other is up to you. But people usually pick Mother's Day. That's kind of the standard. But it could be on your birthday or whatever.
Okay.
But anyways, yeah, I
Even
agree.
at that-
What did it say again?
Anyways, at that point, there is a... Okay, yeah, sorry. Interruption. Anyways, you're not allowed to bring any games unless they're approved by a bishop. You are not allowed to entertain yourself in any manner except reading the 3rd book again and again and again and again and again.
Yeah.
Which I imagine get very boring inside. Very boring over time. And of course, it's just going to get very, very destroying me inside. Because it has destroyed my father inside, and it's not very a good thing. I am stuttering. I'm a terrible speaker.
Oh, no, you're fine. Don't even worry about it. There are like 3 people watching this anyway, so it's no big thing. But, yeah, I mean, you're not
That's a
stuttering.
lie.
It didn't sound like you're stuttering or anything.
Okay. My grammar's also probably bad because I have a retainer in my mouth.
Oh, that sucks. You know, I never did wear like braces or anything like that, so probably needed them. In fact, I definitely did.
My sister
Okay.
wants to talk.
Oh,
She's right here.
okay.
Use 5 to push to talk.
Okay, is this
Hey,
working?
what's up?
Hi.
How's it going?
I am tired, but not tired.
Rip. Oh, I don't know how that's possible, but I will take your word for it. Okay. Well, I appreciate you coming out, man. Maybe we'll talk to you again sometime, right?
Hello?
Yep.
I can't hear anything.
Oh, internet died. Rip. That sucks. Okay, he's muted again. Yeah, that is really interesting. I always like talking to Mormons in general. It's very interesting, or ex-Mormons, really. It's pretty crazy. And by the way, He's locally muted for me, which means that you guys can hear everything he's saying, but I cannot, and neither can the podcast, so it's good. But yeah, I wanted to speak with Star. Let's see. Star. There you are. Unmute. Are you there? Can you hear me, Star?
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Not too bad. So, we haven't talked on the podcast before, have we?
No, we haven't.
Yeah, I usually try to speak with people with whom I have not spoken on the podcast before so that, you know, I get a chance to hear as many stories as possible. So tell me, were you religious originally? Are you still?
Yes.
Or?
I'm not religious currently, but I was raised in a Muslim home, and I was also an immigrant, so...
Really? Interesting.
Yes.
So do you live in the U.S. now, I guess?
Yes, I live in the U.S. right now.
What was that like? Let's just start from the beginning. So what was it like being an immigrant who was Muslim?
Okay, so when my family wasn't too religious. Like, when I came here, I wasn't forced to wear a hijab or anything, and I was like 11, so
okay,
it wasn't too bad. But when I came here, it definitely like kind of turned people off for me, because like I didn't know any English. All I knew was like hi and bye. And after I started to learn, people would ask me so many questions about my faith in school, because
Sure.
like we were in a very Christian area, and when
Sure.
I told them I was Muslim, they'd be like, oh, have you ever considered Christianity? And I'm like,
yeah.
yeah, so that was kind of pressuring.
Yeah, I can understand. You know, when I was in school, they like Jehovah's Witnesses always picked things out to make us different. Like we couldn't say the Pledge of Allegiance and all of this stuff. And I got so used to saying the phrase, "It's against my religion," that it's just like permanently ingrained in my mind now. And I say it ironically now. Like somebody says, "Hey, do you want some of this cake or something?" I'm like, "I can't. It's against my religion," just as a joke, you know. I do that kind of thing all the time. But yeah, it was a serious part of my life. So I know what you mean when you say you felt like different in school and pressured.
Yeah.
Did you ever like look into Christianity as a result of all the kids in school talking about it, or?
I actually did. When I was like in 5th or 6th grade, my friend was like, hey, do you want to go to the church event with me? And I was like, you know what, why not? Because my family wasn't really holding me back. And I'm like, it's a chance to like talk to people. So I
Right.
went there, and they were actually talking to me like, yeah, if you want to like convert, you don't have to like ask your parents, you don't have to do anything. You can just come in, and you can just come in with your friends on Sundays. And I'm like, okay, this is a little too pushy.
Sure.
And they actually gave me a Bible. And that's what actually got me interested in religion, because I kind of went and like read some of the verses in the Bible, and it was like so similar to the Quran in many ways. And that kind of got me interested in the topic of religion.
Yeah.
So like after I researched it, after that experience, I started researching religion more, and I was kind of like, okay, this is all a bunch of BS.
Right.
After a while.
Yeah, that's really interesting. As far as I know, Islam shares the like the Old Testament with Christianity.
Yes.
And that's because they're both Abrahamic religions, so they both come from Abraham or whatever. And Judaism is also one of those religions. And just a fun little fact here also, a non-Abrahamic religion, or somebody who is not part of an Abrahamic religion, is it's either a heathen or a pagan. I think that one is pagan, but if they're
Yeah, I think
not
it's pagan.
either Muslim or Christian, then it's heathen or something like that. But anyway, yeah, that's really interesting. So when did you like find your way out? Like roughly how old were you when you realized it wasn't true?
So this is actually interesting, because when I was about 13 or 14, I started to look into this stuff more, and I actually was like scrolling through YouTube, and this video popped up, 10 Things to Not Say to an Atheist by like, I think it was The Friendly Atheist.
Okay.
And I was like, I don't know what an atheist is. So I clicked on it, and I started watching it, and then they started talking about God. And at first I was like, wait, this guy doesn't believe in God? How? How is this possible? Is that
Right.
such a thing? And I was like, wait, this is actually a reality? And I kind of looked into it more and more and more. And it just was so interesting, but it made so much sense, more than like the Quran or the Bible or anything I had read. So after a while, I started to like kind of look into it more and research for myself. And then after a while, I was just like, okay, I don't believe in this anymore.
Right.
Maybe I am an atheist myself. And I haven't really told my parents
Mm.
because like my dad is not religious currently. He believes in God, but he's not affiliated with a religion. However, my mom is still kind of hardcore Muslim, and she's like, we have to like pray every day. We have to like believe. And I'm just like, she's a very nice person and she's very accepting, but I also feel like if I tell her, I'm going to crush her.
Right. For sure.
So,
I can understand
yeah.
that. So you said your dad isn't really religious. That's interesting to me. So does your mom like not really push him too hard to try to be in it more? They were both Muslim at one point, right?
Yes. Yeah, they were both Muslim, but they got divorced when I was 5.
Oh, I see.
And I came here with my dad when I was 11, and then my mom came when I was like 12
I see.
or 13. So, but she also moved into California with my stepdad, and she's not the type to wear a hijab, but she's still the type to pray and to believe and to do stuff for God and to
Right.
like be. She's not pushy, but she's also like, you have to have God as a part. You have to have Allah as a part of your life.
Yeah.
So like,
Very
she-
interesting.
yeah, she didn't have too much of an influence on me, and she's not very pushy either. So
Okay. Well, that's lucky then. You kind of lucked out in that department a little bit, I would say, right? So
Definitely does.
does your dad not really follow like any of the culture or anything? Because religion's pretty well ingrained into the culture.
Yeah.
So does he like have a beard and things like that? Does he like do all of those cultural things that aren't necessarily religious?
Sort of. It's like he does a lot of the things that are cultural, but if it's like if it's been like in my country and passed down through cultures, he does it, but not. He doesn't grow a beard. He doesn't like read the Quran every day. He doesn't use I forgot what are they called, but they're like prayer beads that Mormons also use.
Right. I don't
Like,
actually know about those.
Yeah, yeah. There's some like 32 prayers a day or something, and
Interesting.
yeah.
I know Catholics use like rosary beads.
Yeah, there's kind of the same thing, but they have a different name, but I don't know what they're called. I forgot. I actually wrote an essay about that. Anyways, he doesn't do that, but he also has a lot of traditional views that go back to where I'm from, and like sex before marriage, that's not
Sure.
a good thing. Or
Sure.
like even with a lot of like dating and stuff, he's like very, very strict about that. But he doesn't affiliate it with religion, he affiliates it with culture.
Oh, that's so,
So-
interesting. Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that culture is a pretty big deal sometimes, and if you're not following a lot of the cultural, of course you guys are in America now, so it doesn't matter as much, but in other countries at the very least, if you don't follow like the cultural norms, then you can get in some deep shit for it, right? So
Yeah, definitely.
anyway, well that's really interesting. I appreciate you coming on and talking to me about it.
Thank you for giving me a chance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I always like to talk to like ex-Muslims and things like that. I've done some Muslim videos, but they're kind of old, like really old, and just not great quality. I feel like right now, the direction that my channel has taken is more focused on Christian cults. I mean, I feel like Islam can be harmful, certainly, and in a lot of cases it is, and it can be insanely harmful sometimes, like people killing other people and things. But I really feel like here and now, my life is most affected by Christianity at this moment in time, and so that's what I wanted to cover mostly. So there's another person that I've been trying to talk to for a while. Haven't been able to up to now, but it looks like they just came on. So, Menzies, are you there?
Hello?
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Is my mic good?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Okay.
Yeah, sounds perfect actually. So,
Thanks.
yeah. So tell me, we haven't talked before on here, right?
No, we have not.
So what religion were you originally? You still religious?
Yeah, actually, I am still religious.
Hmm.
I've been, well, since I was born, I've been part of the Catholic Church.
Okay.
And, but yeah, I've just been sort of exploring everything at this point,
Hmm.
but I've still been with the church.
Very interesting. So you said
Yeah.
you're Catholic, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, like, you say you're kind of on your way out a little bit, like you're not really sure
Uh,
what to believe, or
Not really, no. But like, I am like looking. I'm not like looking for like a way out. Sorry, how do I say this? Like, I'm just learning. Like, I'm just like exploring, kind of.
okay.
There hasn't been anything that's really like shied me away from it. Um, but yeah,
Okay, interesting. So, is it fair to say that you believe in, I mean, you believe in God, right?
yeah.
All right. So, do you believe that the earth was created in 6 literal days?
Uh, that's the thing. Like, kind of like I don't know because okay, so I'm from Canada and like I go to a Catholic school and even they like talk about in science they'll talk about like evolution and that like they're not trying to hide it at all or anything like that.
Sure.
But again, that's one of the things I haven't really looked into. But um, I'm not saying like yes, like it has, but maybe like you know what I mean. Like I'm
Sure,
not
sure.
like yeah, I'm not gonna be like that.
Okay. So, do you accept evolution, or are you not really sure that it's
Yeah,
real?
sort of like here now I'm remembering like um I actually do believe that evolution did happen, but like I feel like I'm sure there's stuff I'm missing, but like I feel like there's something that caused it to even happen in the first place, if that makes
Okay,
sense.
so you're saying you think that that God may have been the prime mover, quote unquote, the thing that
Yeah,
kind
maybe
of
like he
kicked it into
pushed a button
motion.
or something like that, like,
Okay.
and then it just all happened. I don't know. Like,
Okay,
I'm still
interesting. All right. So let me ask you this then.
learning.
Um, let me think about this question. So you think that God was the thing that kicked evolution into gear. What brings you to that conclusion? What is there something specifically that like some specific reason why you believe that?
Because when I look at like evolution,
Hmm.
it makes sense. I'm like, yeah, it seems like that happened. But then it's like, well, the very first thing, how did that even happen? I'm just like, I feel like there has to be like some sort of starting point, and just until like I get an answer, I guess you could say, that's just what I think it is.
Okay. Interesting. Here's my take on it. I generally don't really see any evidence of a god, right? So I'm kind of just defaulting to. I'm just kind of waiting for evidence to present itself.
Okay,
One,
and yeah, I'm no like person to force anybody into Catholicism or anything like
sure,
that.
sure.
Like I don't get mad at anyone. Like you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I'm the same way. I don't get upset with anybody who believes anything. In fact, I always find it interesting when I get to talk to people who are religious because I don't want this to be like an echo chamber or something like
Yeah.
that. I would like opposing views in here, and I'd like to hear what other people have to say about it and why they think the way they do. If you have the truth, I want the truth too. That's kind of
Okay.
the direction I come at everything, you know.
Like where I'm from, at least in Canada, because I will say like, I've listened to the podcast and stuff, and like
Mm.
for whatever reason, it seems like at least the Catholic schools in Canada are actually a lot different from the ones in the US.
Mm.
Um, in Canada, they're actually publicly funded,
Oh,
and
really?
it's weird because a lot of the other like people from other religions, they actually want to go to the Catholic school instead of the public school, like
Like the
the
regular secular one or
yeah,
whatever?
yeah. It's weird. I don't know. Like apparently, it's only really because like they achieve higher marks, but like there's that. And I think and they're allowed to go there too, actually. The high school, they're allowed. The elementary school, which is like before grade 9, that you have to be Catholic to go to that. But high school, you can be any religion, it doesn't matter. But with that being said, I feel like all the teachers and stuff, they can't really like get mad at someone or even make fun of them. Sure. So like, for example, like on the announcements, I don't know, like last year or something, like when Ramadan started, they said, oh, like let's pray for all the Muslim students who are starting Ramadan. I was like, that's kind of like, personally, I thought like that's kind of weird, but like,
interesting
cool.
though, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm wondering what they were praying for exactly. Were they praying for them to become Catholic, or were they praying?
No, I think just like to get, because you know Ramadan's kind of hard, like difficult. It's
difficult, sure.
So I think that's just like that. But
very fascinating.
But yeah, like on top of that, like when I look at like people's lives, like that, like the people like on the podcast and all that.
Yeah.
It's just like, for example, I'll just use Jehovah's Witness as an example. Like, it seems like the people in that religion, like their lives, like aren't really that good, or like it just seems like, what can I say? Like,
yeah, it's pretty rough. I mean, I'll give you that. It's definitely not
rough.
Easy.
For me, in the Catholic faith, it's not rough. Like, I like my life, so like I'm just gonna stay here. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing that's forcing me to get out. Like, my life's not in danger, I guess you could say.
Sure. So with Jehovah's Witnesses, there are a lot of bad things. Like, they isolate their members from society and they shun their family and things. And you're saying you haven't really seen anything like that going on, so there's no reason for you to kind of find your way out.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Like, my life is fine, so I appreciate that the Catholic faith, at least where I'm living, is like that.
Sure, yeah. I know that like it's pretty different in the U.S. because it's kind of like it's extremist territory here in the U.S.
Really?
I don't know what it's like in Canada, but I know that Canada is largely not really that religious. But
there aren't really any extremists, really.
Oh yeah, like when I say extremist, I don't mean people running around blowing things up or anything. That's extremist for sure.
Okay, yeah, but like, what would you mean? Like,
there are ideological extremists. So every now and then you do get somebody who is blowing things up in America, or abortion clinic shooters and things like that. Yeah, you definitely get that a lot. And it's almost, I don't know of any cases when an abortion clinic shooter was not a religious nutcase. So you get things like that. And aside from that, you have people who just completely isolate their children from the rest of society, just take them out of society entirely, homeschool them.
Really?
And just isolate them. They're not allowed to have any friends from the outside.
Just like in general with religions, or just Jehovah's Witness?
No, that's actually in a lot of different religions. There's evangelicals. Really? Let me just look this up on Google real quick. Hang on. Let me find okay. Evangelical percentage of US population. It's about let's see. Evangelicals are about 26.3% of the population.
Really?
Yeah. And now, not every evangelical will do that. Like, they're not all homeschooling their kids or anything, but they're insane. I mean, they are over the top crazy with a lot of issues, and it's pretty scary stuff. So.
See, in Canada, like, at least where I live, I'll just tell you, like, I'm from Toronto, okay?
Okay.
Basically, the religions are basically Catholicism, Islam, what else? Do you know Sikh?
Yeah, sure.
Sikhism. There's actually a lot of Sikhs here, at least in one area, and that's pretty. And like, I guess other forms of Christianity, like maybe the popular ones, but like that's pretty much it. So, like,
yeah, from my understanding of it, Canada is significantly less religious, but I find it interesting that you have like Sikhs and stuff there, because there's this
one city and the entire population, I would say 70% has got to be Sikh. It's actually crazy. Like,
that is crazy.
Yeah, like they're walking all over the place. Yeah, like yeah.
That is insane. I did not realize that. I'm actually looking at. I don't know if you guys are watching the podcast or not, like live. I don't know if you're watching the live stream or not, but I actually pulled up the statistics on religion in Canada, and yeah, so I guess Islam is the second largest. I mean, this is coming from Wikipedia, so take it with a grain of salt, but it's statistics.
I would say it could be. It probably is actually.
Right. Yeah. It says it's the second largest religion in Canada, practiced by 3.2% of the population. Apparently. Wow. That's fascinating. But anyway, yeah, I appreciate you coming on and talking to me. It's been pretty interesting.
Yeah. I just wanted to say, like, I think this whole idea of this podcast is a really good idea. I really like this.
For sure. I appreciate it. Yeah. I figure it gives people a chance to talk to me and hear
really
what I have to say. And I
yeah.
get to hear their stories too. So anyway, well, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Yeah. Got some questions?
Which cult do you find the most interesting and why?
Which cult do I find the most interesting? Well, I guess Jehovah's Witnesses are kind of out by default for bias purposes, right? Honestly, actually, I think Jehovah's Witnesses are some of the most interesting because for those of you who've seen my most recent video, you saw a woman covering her ears so she didn't hear what somebody was saying. Like, how does somebody get to that point in their lives? How do they get to that point in their brainwashing? It's just so crazy. But on another note, Scientology is very, very interesting to me because the religion itself is structured to oppress people, to hold people down, to hold them hostage, to refuse to let them leave. It's a very fascinating. And so, all right, I'll say Jehovah's Witnesses and Scientology are interesting for the psychology of it. But I really like Heaven's Gate, honestly. So there are three that I find really fascinating. Heaven's Gate was just a ridiculously crazy situation. So, yeah.
Okie dokie. What is your favorite nickname? So, do you like Tell, Telly, Tells, Tellboy?
You forgot Teletubby. That's one that people use sometimes. Although I do not like that one, FYI. I don't know. I guess Tell. Tell is probably my favorite, yeah.
Okay. And here's our next question, which is got a bit of backstory to it. So, I'm in a situation where I know I'm atheist, but I have to pretend I'm Catholic. Everyone that's in my family is Catholic, and a lot of my friends are too. I'm tired of sitting in churches and hearing of a fake God doing fake things, but there's no way for me to get out of it. If I leave, all of my family would probably disown me, and a lot of relationships would probably crumble. I would be alone for the most part. What would you do in this situation? Just accept it and keep faking it, or actually do something?
I would say fake it as long as you can, but there will come a time when you can't fake it anymore, and you should start preparing for that time now. I would suggest you start by warming people up around you to the idea of somebody who doesn't believe. Warm them up to the idea of atheism. Just talk about it a little bit. Just talk about how you had a friend at school who didn't believe and how nice they are and things like that, right? Bring the subject up, but don't out yourself at that moment. Just warm them up to it to start. So that's the first thing you should do. And the second thing you should do is see if you can find a community of people who think alike, who are going through the same thing as you. Obviously, you found your way to this Discord. This is a good community. I would say it would be ideal if you could find a physical community, like people that you can physically hang out with who don't believe. But worst case, you've got this Discord. So that's where I would start. See if you can build a network of friends and people who think like you do. So
that ties really nicely into this question, next one, which is, Could you ask Telltale what a closeted high school atheist can do to find or establish a secularist group in an area where there are none?
Yeah. You know, I'm actually thinking about doing that myself. Like, I talked about this at the end of my latest video, the one that released today, about how I want to start a charity to like help people who were victims of cults and shunning and things like that, right? Help them find job training and things. I honestly don't know the process yet. I know that I can get grants from the state to help people like that. I think my best bet in my case is going to be gearing it toward helping victims of extremist situations, not helping people who are turned atheist, because I think it'll be easier to get grants that way, and I'll be helping the same people anyways. But like I was saying, got a little sidetracked. I do that sometimes. I don't know the process yet. I don't know the process, but it's something that's worth doing, and if it's worth doing, then it's worth looking up and figuring it out. So yeah, there you go.
Alrighty. Do you think that politics could be a lot like a religion? If so, in what ways?
Like a religion? I guess it could be, but the parallel that I would be more likely to draw is I think that religion and politics can both be extremist. I've been saying this for a long time, and I hesitate to say it now on this podcast because I don't want to alienate my audience, but I feel like the Republican Party in the U.S. is, Conan says, don't Telltale. The Republican Party in the U.S. is, it has a cult-like mindset. Not conservatives, not conservatism. I have no problem with conservatives. I mean, my brother is conservative. I know a ton of conservatives. I hang out with them. I work with them. I have no issue with that. The Republican Party, I have a problem with. So, Lord Friend Zone, conservative and proud. That's good. I'm glad that you believe in something strongly and that you have a sense of direction. I don't necessarily agree with those ideas, but I have no issue with you. I do have an issue with extremism, and I see it all over the Republican Party. So, anyway.
Okie dokie. Are there any mainstream scientific theories that you don't agree with?
Mainstream scientific theories that I don't agree with. I haven't been presented with one that I've disagreed with yet, but
I've got one you might have a distaste for.
Okay, go.
String theory?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, okay. You're right. String theory, it is not a theory. It should not have the word theory appended to the end. It is a hypothesis. It's probably a little more than a hypothesis, but it shouldn't have theory appended to the end. It hasn't been proven in any way. And I feel like just calling it string theory is doing a disservice to all of the real theories out there, like the Big Bang Theory, the theory of evolution, the theory of gravity, the germ theory of disease, so on and so forth.
I know I could find one you didn't like.
Yeah, good job.
Here's another interesting question is, if your beliefs were taken away, I assume they mean that, like, if someone could prove to you that a god did exist, would you switch to that religion?
It depends on which God. If it was the Jehovah's Witness God, no, I would never switch to worshiping that monster, not to my dying breath. If it was the Methodist God, maybe, I might. If it was the Catholic God, probably not. If it was the Muslim God, well, again, it would depend on the sect that you're talking about. Is it the Shia or the Wahhabi God that you're talking about? Wahhabi Muslim? It just depends on which God you're talking about. I'll pick one that I might switch to, Methodist.
Okay. Do you consider the beliefs of indigenous tribes to be a form of religion?
Yeah, definitely. Like the Maori, for example, that's definitely
You're gonna say that.
a religion. Yeah, for sure. The
Okay,
Aborigines have their own creation stories and all this stuff. Let's see. And the Native Americans have a lot of, like the Aztecs and things, they have a lot of really interesting creation stories and things. And there's I think there's like a flood myth in almost every culture. So that's pretty crazy. In fact, some of them predate the Noah's flood story and mirror it in an uncanny way. It's really crazy. So
That's really interesting because the Maoris have nothing of any sort of flood whatsoever.
and they're on an island.
Indeed.
So that's even more interesting.
Maybe there was a big flood, but it wasn't the entire world.
Maybe.
Anyway. Someone wanted me to ask you, what does a Jehovah's Witness do after school? After high school?
After high school. Okay. So instead of college is the implication here, I guess.
I assume so, yeah.
So you're not supposed to go to college, obviously, as a Jehovah's Witness. That's kind of against the rules, right? Not technically against the rules, but it's seriously stigmatized and frowned upon. So in my congregation happened to be very wealthy, and they brought in some people later in life. So they already had college degrees. These people had already had they'd already had established careers and things, right? So one of them was an artist who was selling his paintings for like a lot of money. He was borderline rich, and he ended up giving it all up for Jehovah, or for the Watchtower Society, more accurately. Another one's actually a dentist, and he had a PhD, and he made a lot of money. A lot of these people made a lot of money, but commonly what you'll find in congregations is you'll find window cleaners everywhere. Like every Jehovah's Witness is a window cleaner, because for one thing, it doesn't require an education to do. It's really easy. It's just menial manual labor. It pays the bills, and you can bring in as many window cleaners as you want. The whole freaking congregation can be window cleaners, right? So that's a really common occupation with Jehovah's Witnesses. And actually a lot of them get into things like trades. Some of them will go to trade schools, carpentry, electrician, plumbing, things like that, right? So, yeah, that's what you find a lot of the time.
All right, and then the last question is, do you think that math could disprove God?
No, I don't. I mean, I'm kind of going out on a limb here, but I really don't think that there's anything that can disprove God. There are too many claims that can be made, and you can't really disprove a negative like that, math or not.
I guess
as far as I can tell.
Difference would be disproving someone's very specific theistic God,
sure,
as opposed to a deist,
a deist God.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, basically every God who has been presented as a result of the Bible has been disproven. I mean, not every God, obviously, but so many of them. The Christian God, as the Catholics believe him to be, has been disproven, because there are so many claims racking up about him that are just false, period. Any God who created the earth in 6 literal days, 6,000 years ago, disproven, period. We've disproven that that's happened. Or we have proven that that has not happened. Now, I guess that doesn't really technically disprove that the God doesn't exist. It just proves that their claim about the God is false. So, I don't know. It's kind of a sticky situation. But yeah, I'm just going to default to disbelief about all gods until further notice, until I get evidence of it. So.
And someone just wanted to ask you how your day is.
Oh, okay. This is actually the last question, right? The last one?
That's
Okay.
it.
And yeah, that was the last person too. So I'll answer this question, then we'll end it. How was my day?
You don't want to do one more person?
Hang on, let me look. 1 second. Okay. Tell you what, I'll do one more person, and then I'll answer that question, then we'll get off of here. Wait a minute. Let me find aforementioned person. Okay. CMI, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Not too bad. So we haven't talked on here before, right?
Yeah, I just joined recently, actually.
Okay. So are you religious, or were you originally, or?
Yeah, I was actually Christian for a while, and then I started using science, or I just started looking at science and stuff, and then I read the Bible actually because my grandma wanted me to, and then I was like, wait a minute, this stuff doesn't really make sense, and yeah.
Right. I know. That's like the one sure way to turn somebody atheist is to read the Bible, right?
Yeah, and ever since then I've actually been writing a book on the history of the universe.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So, like, what religion were you originally?
Actually, I was just kind of Christian. At first I was Baptist, but then I became just kind of Christian. I wasn't going to church that often, and then atheist. Yeah.
Okay, very cool. So I guess your parents didn't really like shove it down your throat or anything. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, they didn't actually. Yeah, my mom was really open to me becoming atheist. Actually, she was like, "Okay, yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter that much."
It's good.
Right.
I'm really glad to hear that. So what drew you to this community of YouTube and things like that? YouTube atheism.
Well, like I said before, I like science, and I started watching Professor Stick, and then I saw the video that you were in with him, and I came across your channel, and I started watching, like, you, Vice Rhino, Godless Engineer, people like that.
Awesome. Yeah. Oh, Professor Stick. I don't know how many people he's attracted to my channel for me. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm in a little group with, like, Vice Rhino and Godless Cranium and Godless Engineer and all them. They're pretty cool. I like all of them pretty well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I love the content you guys produce. I watch it like every day after school or so. So yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate you. You know, like I appreciate your support and the fact that you like my content. That makes me pretty happy to hear. So.
Thanks.
Yeah, sure. But anyway, did you have like a story that you wanted to tell about religion or anything? Anything you wanted to cover?
Well, I do want to ask you about this. So, like, there's a friend that I have at school, and she's actually a Jehovah's Witness. And I was just wondering, like, because sometimes she gets kind of mad when I'm talking to some of my other friends about evolution. Like, how do you think I should deal with kind of those situations?
So, how do I think you should deal with situations where people get mad about you talking about evolution? Is that what it was?
Kind of, yeah, because she kind of is like, that stuff is all fake, right, and stuff like that, so, yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Their aversion to a belief in things outside of their comfort zone, so their aversion to science or scientific facts that conflict with their worldview is directly linked to that worldview. So when you say I accept evolution, they feel like you're attacking their faith, that kind of thing, right? So my suggestion would be to try street epistemology on them. There's like I don't know if you've heard of this, but there's a channel called Cordial Curiosity, and there's another called Anthony Magnabosco, and they talk about street epistemology. Is basically a modified Socratic reasoning method where you just kind of ask questions to get them to come to the conclusion themselves. Like, do you think that faith is a reasonable way to come to this conclusion about things? And then they'll say, well, yeah, I think so. And you say, okay, what makes your faith different from a Muslim's faith? How can I tell which person is correct, and you just boil it down until there's absolutely nothing left. And then they start to realize, it starts to click that their beliefs are irrational. That's about the best way. You have to dismantle the worldview usually before you can get them to accept things like evolution. It's a long-winded answer, and I know it's probably not what you were looking for, but that's about the only option sometimes, unfortunately.
And I have one last question. So
Sure.
my grandparents, they're like, so I'll give you some backstory. They live in South Carolina. They have basically their entire lives, and they're extremely religious. They're South Carolinian Baptists, and this summer is actually the first time I'm going to see them again since I became atheist. I became atheist like back in October of last year. So.
Sure.
How do you think I should deal with that? I haven't like even told them really.
Well, here's the thing with it. If you can, so you haven't told them, you said, right?
Yeah.
Okay. If you can avoid telling them, that would be the ideal situation, obviously. But sometimes you can't. Sometimes you just have to be who you are, right? And in those cases, I think the best thing you can do is just prepare for the circumstance when they find out. Just prepare by warming them up to it, warming them up to atheism, and forming a community of people around you who won't hate you for who you are. That's probably the best advice that I could give on that.
All right. And one last question. It's one's my friends wanted me to ask. What's your opinion on cream soda?
That's so funny that you mentioned that. I'm actually drinking a cream soda right now. But no, I'm not joining the Discord. All right.
Oh, crap.
I appreciate you coming on the stream. Infinity, we don't have any more questions, right? Was there one more question I was going to answer? I feel like there was. How was my day? Was that the question?
How was your day?
Yeah. Pretty good. It was Mother's Day. I got Alpha Force Zero's great-grandmother flowers, and yeah, she liked those a lot. I went over there and ate baked steak with her for a while and chit-chatted. It was pretty fun, so not too bad, but very busy afterward. When I got back, I had to get a whole bunch of work done, and now I'm going to be working until I go to bed, so anyway, yep, that's the end of it. I appreciate you guys coming. I am unmuting everybody now. Unmute.
Why do you do this?
Because it's fun.
Should helpers and moderators help?
If you want, go for it. Yeah, sure. Unmute.
Can't wait to talk to you next time, perhaps.
Perhaps.
Hey!
Indeed.
Oh my gosh, I can actually talk to you.
Indeed. However, I'm done answering questions though, so I can't answer. All right, thanks, guys.